Did I miss something? Because I'm completely confused. So I just go to Dairy Queen to get an ice cream and a Blizzard for Doodlebug. So my total was $7.68. So I gave the lady $8 in cash. So she takes my $8 and she says, a minute later, she comes back to the window. Do you really want your 32 cents? And I looked a little confused. I said, yes. So she kind of got an attitude. Okay. So she closes the window. So I'm sitting here like, why would I not want my change? I'm just a little confused. So she comes back and she's going to give me the 32 cents. And I'm like, do people not normally want their change? Because I'm confused by what the hell just happened. And she says, well, people normally tip. The fuck? What is going on with this tipping culture? I fully understand tipping when I am getting a service done outside of their normal job. Like if I'm ordering groceries, if I am going to a restaurant and they are serving me my food, if I'm at, wherever that they do not make a full salary. What the hell am I tipping you for? You're already getting paid to work at Dairy Queen. So what am I tipping you more for? I am confused as hell. So now she has an attitude because I want my 32 cents in change. Absolutely, I want my 32 cents. The fuck is wrong? Look, y'all have gone too far with this tipping culture, period.
A lady came into my restaurant today and asked me if it was okay if she didn't tip. And I said, yeah, that's fine. It's not mandatory. And she said, oh, so you're not one of those servers that's going to give me a big stink about not tipping? And I said, no, ma'am, it's fine. It evens out in the end. And she said, oh, really? And I said, yeah, it's not mandatory and other people will tip and some people tip more than others and it evens out for me. I just would prefer that my tables do tip. And she said, oh, so you prefer. Okay, why is that? And I had to explain this whole thing of how if you don't tip, servers still have to pay money on your bill and you are actually costing us money. And I feel like no one had actually explained this to her before. And she did end up tipping. She gave me 10%, which I was like, great, because that covers my tip out. But I'm just wondering, like, do people just not know unless they work in the service industry? Do people just not know that if you don't tip, you cost your servers money?
Tipping culture in America is out of control, but it's the biggest life hack if you do it correctly. I was at a coffee shop in Miami recently. I ordered a cappuccino and there was a $2 mandatory service charge on my bill for making me a coffee. I'm totally fine with tipping well for great service on a 3-course meal, but a mandatory service charge on a coffee? I go to Starbucks and grab a water out of the cooler, self-serve, and purchase it. And they flip the screen around and ask if I want a tip. It's just going to ask you a few quick questions. I know what the questions are. Tipping for little things like that is absolutely ridiculous. However, tipping is the biggest cheat code in the book if you do it properly. If you go to the same bar or club every weekend and there's always a line to get in, when you get up to the bouncer, shake his hand, ask for his name, and then slip him a $50 bill as you walk in. He's going to remember you every single time you show up to that bar, and he's going to let you cut the line every single time. Same thing with a nice restaurant. If you tip your waiter 100% of the bill one time, and it's hard to get a reservation at this place, anytime you need a reservation, you can hit this person up, and they're going to get you right in. If there's a hotel lobby bar you go to all the time, give the bartender a $50 or $100 bill. They're going to remember you forever. They're going to hook you up on cheap drinks. They're going to introduce you to other wealthy people sitting around you. It's the biggest cheat code in the book. Save tipping for strategic situations and good service, but not tipping on a cappuccino. Come on.
The tipping culture is getting out of control. I'm leaving the shoe store because I'm getting my sister some shoes for her birthday. And there's the kiosk table thing that these people are standing at because they're shining the shoes and they're selling that product. I'm sure everyone has seen it in their malls. And he's like, you just bought some new shoes. Like, you want to buy this, da 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 da. I was like, no, these shoes aren't for me. Like, I'm okay. And he's like, well, whoever you bought them for, like, you can throw that in with the gift. I was like, for my sister, and I promise you she's not going to use your product to be cleaning her shoes. Like, she's not doing that. Because I don't want your product. Then he's like trying to coerce me into like purchasing this product. I was like, no, it's Mother's Day. I got 2 birthdays. Like, my pockets, they're ran through. No. Then he asked me, can you leave me a tip? And I'm like, a tip for what? Like, what do you mean you want a tip? He was like, the commission, if you want to help me out, tip me for this commission. Like, it's going on and on about this tip and this commission. I was like, I have no more money to give. I'm sorry. And like, have a good day. Like, goodbye. What am I tipping you for? For bothering me? For pestering me? For trying to coerce me into buy your products? Like, I'm confused. A tip for not buying something is actually insane.
So Americans are starting to tip less. A recent Wall Street Journal survey found that Americans were starting to push back on tip prompts for basic transactions and service charges, and overall were just very frustrated with tipping culture, which has always been around in America, at least in the recent history, but has really exploded in the past couple of years, kind of with the rise of those tip screens, etc. And tipping has been around in American culture for quite a while, but in the past couple of years, it has definitely exploded with the proliferation of the tipping screens, just kind of coming out of COVID. And the survey revealed that in response, Americans are starting to have higher standards, to warrant tipping, using cash to avoid the tip screens, or simply tipping less or not at all. And this isn't just about saving money, though I think that is a factor during times of economic uncertainty. I think there is also kind of this psychology piece at play where I think a lot of consumers believe that the traditional boundaries of what deserves a tip has been overextended to transactions that previously didn't include tipping. And a really good example of this is those self-service kiosks where you kind of go and scan the items and then ask for a tip. And understandably, that feels pretty frustrating and annoying that you have to deal with that. And, tipping has normally been guided by widely understood, if not unwritten, rules. And as these norms have become violated on the tipping end of things, tipping has kind of been inserted in places where it wasn't inserted before, people are understandably getting frustrated by that, one. And two, they're also just getting exhausted by having to navigate all these different social expectations that are just rapidly changing around tipping. So that's leading to people to tip less or not at all. And I was saying before, economic pressure definitely plays a role here, but I think it's a little bit more nuanced than just cutting costs. So yes, I think there might be some consumers that are foregoing the tip just to save a couple bucks here and there, but I think we're also seeing a fundamental shift in consumption patterns. So people are eating out less, cooking home at more, etc. It's also really important to point out that tipping has partly been about social signaling and power relationships. And as the power balance shifts between service providers and consumers through technology and changing economic conditions, tipping behaviors will adjust accordingly.
These are my rules for tipping. If you're just ringing me up, you're not getting a tip. If I put all of my froyo together with all of my little Cocoa Puffs and gummies and whatever goodness I want, and you're just ringing me up, you're just weighing the thing and ringing me up, you're not getting a tip. Not by me. If I go to a restaurant and I get really bad service, you're still getting a tip. You're still getting a tip. Because it's so unfair that you're getting paid $4 an hour. And honestly, it's not even my fault. It's not my fault that your employer decides to pay you $4 an hour and that you have to live off of tips. But you know what? That's the world we live in today. So you're still getting a tip. You don't deserve it though. Right? You deserve it in the sense that everyone deserves to get paid at least minimum wage. But come on. Come on. Now here's where it gets tricky. If you did really, really good service and you gave me all the recommendations, you shied me away from the soup that's made yesterday, it was bad, I don't know, then you're probably gonna get 20%. You're probably gonna get 20%. If you did an okay job, you're gonna get 18. If you did an awful job, you're gonna get 15. It's just... that's what it is. You should have worked for a little bit more. I don't know. And it's really weird that we only tip, or more like society only feels okay to tip if it's within the food industry. Why aren't retail workers getting tipped? If I go into a retail shop and I tell the person, hey, I don't know what I want to get. This is a gift for so-and-so. Please help me out. I'm clueless. And they help me out. They style a whole outfit. Why am I not tipping them? Why isn't there a thing at the end where it's who helped you? Well, they do say who helped you, but where does that go? That always happens at Sephora, but does Sephora get commission? Well, maybe Sephora's a bad example. So what if I went to Forever 21 and I was please help me, I'm clueless, I'm going to this 90s party, please help me, and the person helps me. At the end, they're not going to ask me for the person's name. They're just going to be like, here's your total. Unless you're in designer clothing, like, you don't get commission. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I don't know if the people at Sephora get commission. If they do, amazing, great, because they helped me match my foundation or whatever. I don't know. Well, no, they didn't, but like, they might have helped someone else. Let's talk about tipping on drinks. If I go to a bar and the drink is $8, regular sports bar, I got a vodka tonic, $8, you're gonna get $1. That's just what it is. If I go to a nice place and the cocktail's $20, I'm not gonna tip you 20%. I'm not gonna tip you 20% on a cocktail. If I go to a restaurant and I get a cocktail and I get a whole meal, I am going to subtract the cocktail amount and I'm only going to tip on the actual food amount. I am going to tip, you know, for making the cocktail, but like, that's crazy that I'm tipping an extra 20, because we're in LA, $20 extra for one drink, and I'm supposed to tip 20% on that drink. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me, am I like just being stingy? But like, what do you guys do? If you're a food delivery driver and you actually follow all of my steps, which means getting out of your car, putting in my code building, going up the flight of stairs to get to my apartment, dropping off the food, you're getting a tip. You're absolutely getting a tip every single time. And if you don't follow those rules and you make me meet you outside, you're still getting a tip, but you're getting a lesser tip. You didn't follow my rules. So you don't want to do all that. You shouldn't have taken my order. You can decide. But for real, let me know if I'm being stingy, because like, this is just what I've been doing.
How dare you go out to eat in a party of 16 on a tab of $320 and not tip?
The comments on this video are not it. Yeah, people are over the tipping culture nowadays, but I think it's absolutely insane that people are starting to get mad at servers who have been relying on their tips for, hold on, let me find out. So Google says that servers in the United States use serving as a way to supplement income after the Civil War. And then in 1966, Congress passed the tip credit so that employers only had to pay them like that bare minimum, which I think was like $3 or something. So we are all well aware that servers are making $2 to $3 an hour. Hold on a sec. Which is a lot different than the person working at the ice cream shop down the block who's making $12, $13 an hour. And I don't know where the people in the comments get off saying like, well, I don't tip when I go. What? That to me is crazy. And I think it's just as bad as not putting our cart back. Now, am I saying that you always have to tip like the maximum amount? No. But I think also effort goes a long way in that case. So if you can't give 20%, but you do give, like, it's the lack of that really pisses people off, servers off. I think anyone that thinks a $320 bill, 16 people, no tip is okay, are just as bad as not putting your cart back. People, like, that is crazy talk. Crazy talk. And they're also probably the people that have never served a day in their life. And if you are or were a server and agree with that, you're out of your mind. Out of your mind. Also, the restaurant should have had gratuity automatically added, especially for a party that big. So that's something that her restaurant definitely should be looking at, because that's crazy. But I don't think this girl did anything wrong. Would I have done it? No. I'm also very scared of confrontation. I think on a bill that big, I don't know. I think on any bill, if you don't get tipped, I think if you have the balls to go up to a customer, hi, and ask if their service was up to par. Like I said, would I have done it? No. But I would have been very, very upset if I were in her position. What do you think, Milo? I think that's a yes. He agrees with me. All right, well, what do you think? Let me know in the comments.
Has it just become normal to feel poor in Australia? Like, I went to Woolies today to buy some makeup because I wanted to save money and Mecca and stuff is a ripoff. So I was like, okay, sure, this is fine. Get to Woolies, start looking at the foundation, and it's like $35, $40 for drugstore foundation. I was like, what is going on? Am I just like, why am I poor all of a sudden? Why is this so freaking expensive? And then I'm like, okay, how long would it take me to work to be able to afford this? Now, for context, I'm 21. I have a full-time job. I'm just finishing uni. I'm not a slacker. I'm smart. I've got a good job. I'm probably earning like an average salary. It would take me, after tax, superannuation, and HEX debt repayments, over 2 hours of work for me to be able to afford a single bottle of foundation from Woolies. What the heck? And then I had a crisis and I was like, am I poor? Like, why do I feel like I'm not able to buy stuff that I used to be perfectly fine to buy on a regular basis? I started digging into the data and I found out that in the last 2 years, our real wages, so that's what we're actually earning once you like deduct inflation, because that actually means you're not able to actually buy anymore, it's just inflation. Our real wages have dropped 9% in the last 2 years. That's why I feel freaking poor.
So people from all around the world have been asking me how fucked the cost of living is part 3. Some give it to you. $9.50 for butter. Go fuck yourself. $9.90 for a fucking 3-litre milk. You're off your head. $16 for a fucking piece of fish. Fuck off. $10 for a block of cheese. You're off your head. These chocolates are $16. What a fucking rip-off. $28 for a fucking egg.
Australia is so lucky, or we get told. This is my fridge. Day out from payday. But we're the lucky country that can't afford fuel, electricity, food, anything.
Count your fucking days, Coles, because in what reality are 2 cucumbers this size, yeah, measly, worth $7 whole? Have you lost your mind? I just went and did, not even a grocery shop, I just went and got like noodles, soy sauce, the fucking $1 million cucumbers apparently, tofu, $60. A few other bits and pieces, but like $60. It's cheaper for me to order out, takeout for 2 whole people with sides than what it is to go and get like bare minimum groceries. And isn't that because the CEO is busy taking home like $40 million a year?
This is controversial and it will piss off some of you, but normalize clicking no tip on the iPad. Normalize it! Because I am dead tired of paying for things that should not be tippable. Like, I just went to a coffee shop to buy a bottle of water, and like the lady turns around, opens the fridge door, and pulls out a bottle of water, right? She shows me the iPad, like she turns it around, and then it's like 15, 18, 20. I'm like, girl, forgive me, no tip. But like, I'm sorry, like the way she like, I know the tipping prompt is like involuntary, like regardless of what I order, like it will pop up. But like, you look at me dead in the eyes and you flip that iPad and you show it to me, like, pretending like we don't both know what you're doing. I don't know. I think that's crazy to me. In fact, it's not even the worst of all examples. I think tipping culture has gone out of control. We should not be tipping for basic service. Like, what is next? Jesus.
Okay, can someone please explain to me, like I'm a 5-year-old, why all of a sudden, everywhere I go and everything I purchase, someone is requesting a tip? I don't care. Just punch a couple buttons on the cash register, just swipe, tap, whatever. Literally doing nothing extra to help anyone and expecting a tip. That just blows my mind. And it's super frustrating because no, I just want to pay for what I got. Yeah, you didn't really help me. So not sure why you're expecting a tip. Anybody else super frustrated with that? I don't know. It could just be me. I just could be in one of those moods this week. I don't know.
Things that absolutely trap my ass. People that expect to be tipped for everything. Yesterday, I went through Starbucks, okay? I had a sweet craving. I got a cake ball and a venti ice water. And when I went up to the window to pay, she told me I told him. I went to hand her my card. She refused to take my card and she shoved the thing in my car for me to insert my card. And the very first screen is a tip screen. And I pushed no tip. And she looked at it and looked up at me. I'm sorry. I am not tipping you for handing me a ice water and a cake pop that you guys get in surplus that you take out of the bags and put in an individual bag and hand it to me. You didn't do shit. So what am I tipping you for? The tipping is getting out of control. Even if I went inside and got a custom drink, unless it was a really complicated drink, I'm not going to tip you. I'm not doing it. Now, I take me and my husband and our 5 kids to a restaurant, and that server is running her ass off, getting us ketchup and extra napkins, and my son dropped his fork, and she's replacing his fork, and she's refilling 7 people's drinks. I'm going to tip the shit out of her, okay? I go get my hair done, it takes 3 hours, and some chick standing behind me on her feet all day long and working on my hair for 3 hours, I'm going to tip her. I go get a massage, and someone's using their body and massaging on me for 75 minutes, I'm going to tip you. I'll admit, sometimes I go through Dutch Brothers or Starbucks and I order a simple drink, and if that person's super, super sweet and loving and kind, I'll give them a little bit of a tip. But these people thinking that we need to tip for absolutely everything is mind-blowing.